Hey everybody, it is Jonah Lupton back today with another episode of the Startup Sense podcast. Got a great episode for you today. On the phone, I have Vaidhy Murti. He is the co-founder of Friendsy. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up, Jonah? Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Where are you calling us from today?
Calling you from New York, the southern tip of Manhattan.
Wait. Okay, so before we kind of jump in and talk about your company, Friendsy, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Vaidhy Murti. I was born in Boston, grew up most of my life in New Jersey. I'm a huge sports fan. Unfortunately, I don't like Boston teams, mainly these tri-state area teams. I really like basketball, tennis, cricket, and yeah, I grew up here. I went to school in Manalapan High School. If any of you have watched the Jersey Shore, Mike the Situation's my high school's most famous alum. So that's where I'm from. I went to school after that at Princeton, and I studied computer science in the engineering department. And that's where I started Friendsy my sophomore year.
Sweet. Yeah, you did it the opposite way as me. I grew up in Jersey and then moved to Massachusetts, so I'm a diehard Boston fan. So,
Oh, wow. We're really up to a great start here.
okay, talk to us about Friendsy. I mean, I have an idea of what it is, but I want to hear it from you.
Sure. Friendsy is a college dating app popular at schools in the Northeast. We're sort of similar to Tinder, but we're totally exclusive to your school. You can make your intentions clear, and we're super personalized to your school. So you can search by Greek life, major, and more. And our mission is really to make it easier for students to connect on campus. I really, started it because I got to school and I realized freshman year a lot of my best friends now and a lot of my best friends in college were people that I met completely spontaneously in those first few weeks that are truly magical. And you can kind of try out different things and you meet all these people by random chance. But I felt after that, you kind of get stuck in your social circles. They get a little more cemented and it becomes harder to branch out and meet more of the amazing people around you. So Friendsy started off as a project that I wanted to build. And 4 years later, it's evolved into a company that I now work full time on.
Okay, so talk to us about that. Now, when did you guys start the company? What year was it?
December of 2012.
Okay, how many founders?
There were three of us at the time.
There's still three, or did someone leave?
I'm the only one still with the company.
Okay, are you a technical guy?
Yeah, I mean, I built, the majority of the initial prototype, but I've been the CEO from day one. So especially at this point, a lot of my time is spent on the other areas of the company. We have like a pretty solid product now, so a lot of time is spent managing our growth and our marketing as we expand to various schools across the country.
Now, I know you guys have raised some money. How much have you raised?
So to date, we've raised about $700,000. That's come from like various sources.
Who were some of the sources?
So like early on, like the earliest money we ever raised was an Indiegogo campaign. So this wasn't even like real venture money. It was just like a family and friends round. After that, we were fortunate enough to be selected as part of a Princeton summer accelerator program. So we actually went through that program twice, and they gave us like a stipend through that. In terms of like actual money that we've raised, the first real, I would say, significant chunk was through a convertible note, which we raised on about $100,000 from various angel investors in New York, followed up by a matching convertible note from Princeton for about $100,000. And then finally, we raised a seed round of $500,000 led by Lair Hippo Ventures and Slow Ventures.
Nice. Those are two good VC firms too. Why did Princeton get involved? They have some sort of a program for, because you're a Princeton grad, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Princeton has made like a really big push towards entrepreneurship. It's crazy when I got there 5 years ago. Wow, I'm getting old. Computer science wasn't like really a big major. It was like a decently sized department, but there weren't a ton of, entrepreneurial opportunities. And just watching that change over the course of 4 years and watching it evolve was incredible. They're really, really pouring more resources into, the field. And computer science, by the time I left, was the most popular major, with the intro to computer science class being the most popular class offered at Princeton. So we're really seeing a shift happen before our eyes, and Princeton's doubled down on that. And they've done that through the accelerator program that I mentioned, the eLab accelerator, which has been, invaluable for us and our company. It really changed the trajectory of our growth. We did it twice, but they also have this new fund, which I think is a little bit under wraps, but they support alumni who graduated, who have startups that have managed to secure external funding and sort of a matching note. So if you can secure up to $100K from outside backers, you can apply for this program. And if you're selected, Princeton has a special fund where they'll now give you a matching note to help propel your company. So I still have a close relationship with them. I go back pretty frequently, but they've been really, really great and supportive through this whole process.
That's awesome. Now, how did you get connected with Lear and Slow Ventures?
So it was pretty, I guess, random chance, man. That's what a lot of this stuff goes back to. But when we launched nationwide, when we opened Friendsy up in March of 2015, we grew pretty quickly. So we grew from about 20,000 users to over 80,000 users in about 6 weeks. And part of that whole thing included a press release that we made to, I think it was PR Newswire. And one of the girls who used Friendsy at one of our schools, Northwestern, she read that and she wrote to us saying that she's interested in writing a piece on us. And she worked at TechCrunch at the time. So she wrote an article about us that was featured in TechCrunch, and people read it from that. So I think Julian read that article. Julian Moncada from LHU read that article, and he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he asked if we'd be down to come in for a meeting. That's how that initial contact was made, through that article.
Sweet. Yeah. I guess sometimes you just have no idea how you're going to find your investors, and it is random things like that kind of puts you on the right path. Okay, so kind of back to Friendsy. Did you guys launch at Princeton? Was that the first school you opened it up for?
Yeah, it was the very first school. So after starting in December of 2012, the next 5 months were spent just building a prototype. And by prototype, I really mean prototype. It wasn't super sophisticated. It didn't look super nice. It was also a website because 6 years ago or whenever, I can't do math, 4 years ago, apps weren't nearly as popular, right? We've seen that shift happen. So it was just a very basic website where you could sign up with your Princeton.edu email address and browse through other people in your network. For each person, you could indicate if you wanted to be friends with them, hook up with them, or go on a date with them, and they would get an anonymous notification, but that was it. So let's say I wanted to go on a date with you, Jonah. I would click your date button, and you'd get an anonymous notification saying someone from Princeton wants to go on a date with you, but you wouldn't really know who that was. So you would go on the app or the website, and you would start clicking other people, and then they would all get notifications. And you can see it kind of created a snowball effect. So with our Princeton launch in May of 2013, we registered over 1,000 users in our first week, which is about a quarter of our campus. So we were excited by that.
Wow. And then where did you guys go from there? What was the next school you opened it up for?
So from Princeton, we went to Dartmouth. Dartmouth has this sophomore summer program where after your sophomore year, all of the Dartmouth sophomores stay on campus for that summer term because they have a quarter system. So we ran kind of a crazy promo there. We made it such that you could only sign up for Friendsy if you had an exclusive access code. So kind of ripping off what Gmail did with their invites many years ago. But creating scarcity and then seeding the network with various influential groups so that people would hear about it and then they would want access codes. And it grew pretty quickly at Dartmouth from there. And after that, we took what we learned and we tried to replicate it at various other schools. So we grew from about 2 to 10 schools over the course of the whole next year. And then the following fall, we grew from 10 to 20, 20 to 40. And then in March of 2015, we opened it up.
So currently you guys are open to any college campus across the country?
Yeah, we're open to any college campus across the country. One of the lessons that we learned, though, the hard way after opening it up nationwide, is that you really need a strong critical mass of users at a school for the product to stick. If you think about it, if you download Friendsy at a new school and you're the first person on it, or even if you're one of the first 100 people on it, there's not all that much for you to do because the content is the people. So the way, we've really changed our approach as to how we launch a new school. They've become more individual school by school rollouts where we really try to focus on schools and take them down over the course of a couple of weeks or a month. And we've seen that to be a much more effective growth strategy But yes, anyone with a .edu email address who's currently a college student in America can download our app and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I would think this is the kind of company where you really need to have like a community person or an ambassador on each campus promoting it, amongst the students.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important because I know like a common myth is, if you build it, they will come. But if you look at the shift in consumer social apps, especially, there's so many of them now. The market's pretty saturated that just because you build it, like people won't necessarily hear about it. You have to show them, why you provide a unique value compared to your competitors. What differentiates you? Why should you be another app like on the, maybe dozens or hundreds of apps that they have on their phone already? So that novelty is worn off, and it's certainly harder to build those critical masses and, get those network effects now than it was, let's say, 12 years ago when Facebook did it.
So obviously there's Facebook, right? There's Yik Yak. Yik Yak is anonymous for people that aren't familiar with it. And then there's Tinder, which is certainly more dating. What other social apps do you think people are using on their phone that you're competing against?
I would say if Tinder and Facebook had a baby, it would be us.
Right. That's what I was too. I was just afraid to say it.
Yeah, no, that's like totally cool. I think it's an accurate description because, we're a lot more, about real life personal connections than Tinder. Like on this app, you can make your intentions extremely clear, like whether you want to be friends with someone, hook up with someone, or go on a date with someone, which is how we classify the 3 types of relationships you can have in college. And people use all 3, so we're pretty happy with that classification. But unlike Facebook, where, a lot of that initial pull was that you could see everyone from your school, Facebook is for meeting people you already know or people you've already met, right? Like you don't randomly add people on Facebook because you want to get to know them. Right. Friendsy is really more about that, like helping you meet new people, make new connections, and branch out.
Now, how much control do you have? I know I tried to download the app and sign up, but I don't have an EDU college address, so I couldn't. But there are probably a lot of grad students that still have their EDU addresses. Are they allowed on your platform, or are you trying to figure out a way to really keep it like just the students that are active and enrolled?
Sure. One of the things that's most important to us is that every person on Friendsy is like a real life verified college student. There are no fake accounts, no fake profiles. So it's a really like safe, secure environment where everyone feels comfortable. In history, like, the vast majority of people using Friendsy are college undergrads. Grad students at certain schools have .edu email addresses that you can't differentiate from undergrad ones, so it's tougher to keep them off. So generally we allow them to get on the app as long as they put in their year and everybody else on the platform knows that, they're a grad student. That's fine.
Right.
We don't really mind that.
Or even like, I meant even the student that graduated, like maybe they're not a grad student, but
So,
they graduated 4 years ago, but they still have their, they still have access to the EDU address. Now, I know colleges have tried to, get tighter on cutting those people off. Like once you graduate, you have like 6 months, to use your EDU address before it becomes, invalid.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of colleges, what they do is they actually change the domain. So ours were like our NetID at Princeton.edu, and after a year, they transitioned us to our NetID at alumni.princeton.edu. So we have a system in place that can detect all those sorts of alumni email addresses. There's certain schools, though, like NYU, for example, I think they give you a lifetime one. So like it'll just be your NetID at nyu.edu. And it's like virtually impossible for us to differentiate if that's an undergrad or like an older person. But I mean, what we used to do is we used to like try to look it up in the school's directory, but that's not really scalable. But what we found is that doesn't really happen, and we have a sophisticated like reporting mechanism on the app. So if you see anyone who you don't think should be there, you just tap the report flag. Users can do it easily, and then we have a team that's reviewing that essentially 24/7.
Okay, cool. What's your biggest campus so far? Where do you have the most people at any one particular school? Or, you can rattle off kind of a few names where, you have a nice density.
Our favorite campus, and this is a shout out, is Dartmouth. So from that initial launch, Dartmouth has been like our best school for the last 3 years almost. They've been absolutely incredible. We have 60% campus penetration there. Super active. We've made like almost 75,000 matches there, I think, in 3 years. So like people at Dartmouth really like Friendsy, and we've gone and like sponsored parties there, and like I've gone up there personally and met people who've met on Friendsy. So we really like Dartmouth. Other than that,
okay, no, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, so Dartmouth has been the best school. What did you guys do there? And then how do you replicate it for other schools? Or is it just hard to replicate just because they were so early on? You know, they were like that beta user.
Yeah, man, this is crazy because this is like this is what's been keeping me up at night for the last year, trying to figure it out. Because we never, recently we've been able to replicate Dartmouth, so the story ends well. But it took a really long time for me to figure out if it was something that was replicable or if it was just because, we launched this before apps like Tinder were even popular in colleges, right? Because Tinder launched pretty much right when we started Friendsy, like a little bit after, and that changed the dynamic. But we have, in fact, been able to replicate Dartmouth at a few other schools. So TCNJ, the College of New Jersey, is a really popular school for us. Vassar College, Rutgers. In the past month, we've had several thousand new people from Rutgers start using the app. Currently, this month we're focused on Penn State, Drexel, UConn, and a few of those other like bigger schools in the Northeast. And we do have a playbook now that we figured out, what worked at Dartmouth. How can we take that and we can roll that out to other places? Largely, like speaking generally, it has a lot to do with, creating the right network, like seeding the network with the correct people and the correct combination of people. Like on an app like Friendsy, a lot of this is supply and demand, right? Like people want to meet, so there are certain things you have to optimize for. One of the most important things is gender ratio, right? You can imagine that if we got 1,000 guys to sign up for Friendsy and no girls to sign up for Friendsy, there wouldn't be as much to do as if it was an even split, right? So there's certain things like that we look at, and when we launch at a school, we try to really control for so that we can grow the network in the correct way. And there's certain things that have to happen to a new user after they sign up for Friendsy that really activates them into a longer retained user. And we found that if we're able to do that, we have serious staying power at a school.
Yeah, and I can see certainly with something like this, I mean, you need more organic growth versus paid growth. I mean, that paid growth can get very expensive, especially if you're trying to do it across the entire country, thousands of college campuses. That's a tough road. So, the more user love you can have and people sharing it. Have you guys done any paid advertising, Facebook ads, for instance, or any type of paid?
Yeah. So we've tried Facebook ads with very limited, moderate success. I mean, I wouldn't really recommend it for apps like this that, are trying to be exclusive and that rely on these individual networks to succeed, because Facebook ads are good at getting a lot of, randomish people for cheap. But as I said, it's way more important to get 1,000 users at one school. Even if I have to pay, 5 times more to get 1,000 users at one school, that's way more valuable than just getting 1,000 users across the country, right? Right. At a cheap clip. So we've tried various paid acquisition strategies. Generally, some of them work, right? They work when, we've sponsored parties, for instance. We've sponsored parties where in order to get into the party, you need to have the Friendsy app, where we'll partner with the organization throwing the party. And that's cool. That creates an aura of exclusivity, and it seeds the network with the right people. And those people end up talking about the app, and then other people end up hearing about it. So it's not so much that you can magically grow at a school without spending money. That's not at all the case. But what you said about word of mouth is completely correct, right? Once you seed the school with a couple thousand people or 1,000 people, they need to be telling their friends about it. It needs to spread that way, because you can't continue to spend that amount of money acquiring a large portion of a campus. The app has to be such that when you have that critical mass of people on it, they do tell their friends about it. People do hear about it. And we're finding that to be that's what's happening if we're able to seed the network correctly.
And what are your plans for monetizing Friendsy?
So there are a few different things that we've thought about. We actually built this new feature that we're testing out at Dartmouth, our favorite school, and Vassar right now. It's called Mystery Matches, where you kind of get paired up with a new person every day. We have an algorithm like that'll pair you up with somebody every single day for a 24-hour match. And we're trying to think about ways to sponsor that. So right now, every day with your mystery match, you can get a free cup of coffee. So you can go to Starbucks, for instance, and get a free coffee on us. Like, we're literally giving you free coffee to meet someone new at your school every day. So we think that's like a win-win. So ideally, we'd love to do some sort of partnership or, some sort of sponsorship with a company like that who'd be willing to, come in and help us, help other people meet new people because they believe in our vision, while also helping them, drive targeted traffic to their locations. But that's one example. Besides that, we're able to segment on a lot of different things. So advertising is, I guess, another avenue that we could explore.
Right.
But that, I've heard, will come a little bit later in the game. I don't think we're ready for that quite yet, but I think in like the next couple of months, we'll start looking at it more seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a data play, just like Facebook makes all their money on targeted ads because Facebook has everyone's, age, gender, geographic location, all that stuff. I mean, you guys are going to have the same thing most likely, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. So we can target ads.
You guys on iOS and Android?
Yeah, we're on iOS and Android. So we started off as a website, and then when was it? So it was after like a full year. It was a year and a half later, March of 2014, we launched our iOS app, and then May of 2014, we launched our Android app. So that was when you saw the big consumer shift to mobile apps. That was when,
right.
Even like Facebook's like advertising revenue exceeded their like web revenue for the first time, like on mobile. And so we built an iOS and an Android app. And the following year, when we launched nationwide in March of 2015, we shut down the website and we focused exclusively on our mobile apps, which was a huge decision. But it ended out like working out for the best, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Tinder's mobile only, I think, right? I mean, Snapchat,
Yeah.
I mean, all the big ones. I mean, that's, I go to Facebook maybe once a week on my desktop, and then the other 90% of the time it's, on mobile. And I think other people are, same with Twitter, same with LinkedIn, same with all of them, really. So let's talk about the investors. What is the single best piece of advice you've gotten from, any of your investors thus far?
Wow. I would say from LHV, we went through some really, really tough times as a company. And to like abbreviate that, after raising our round, and graduating school, moving to the city to work full time, things really didn't go as planned. We didn't hit our growth targets. The product wasn't there. The marketing strategies were not there. And we kind of like started to fizzle out towards December. Like, we weren't growing. We lost a lot of users over the summer. Because a lot of these apps experience a summer lull, right? People use a college app to connect with people at college.
Right.
If they don't use the app for 3 months, like, they kind of fall off.
Yeah.
So we went through some really, really tough times. And that's when, some people decided to go other ways. That was when, like, one of my partners left. Several, top people on the team also, decided that they would go their other ways for a variety of reasons. And, we were also on the brink of running out of money. So, it was January of this year, and we had money till March of this year. And my investors told me that a lot of people in this situation, like, it's tough. It happens to a lot of startups, but a lot of people give up and, like, kind of cut their losses and accept defeat. But if this is something that I truly believe in and that I'm super passionate about, which I am, that, you never know. Success could be right around the corner, and sometimes it's just a few small tweaks of, really seeing and understanding your user behavior and understanding how to capture a market that can take something that's so close and, like, take it to that point where it can really grow and be replicated. And for me, a lot of my team was, like, whittled down to just a few people who had been there from a larger team. We had a team of like 15 people, including full-time, part-time. Went down to 4 in total. And I spent a couple of months just building it back up with, like, really excited people who believe in this vision, who are motivated, who are inspired, who are passionate, who want to be part of this because they love the idea of being able to connect people through this app. And things have, like, completely changed for us. Like, now we've grown week over week for the past 12 weeks. Like, our product is really sticking. Like, we understand finally, like, how to recreate those star mitts. We've done it 3 times already in the last month. We're going to do it 5 times this month. And like, morale is like way up. Like, everyone, we're a family. Like, this team, you know, we all love each other. We care so much about each other. But through those like dark times, you know, in March, especially March, April, May, I was just pulling my hair and I didn't know what to do. And my investors, like Julian and Taylor from LH they were like, you know what, like, we know how much you care about this. We know how hard you've worked. There's just like a couple of tweaks, man. Like, work, keep at it, keep holding on, and your moment might come. And like 6 months later, like, we held on, and I feel like our moment is here. So I've really, really appreciated my relationship with them. They've been extremely supportive. 10 out of 10 would recommend them to any other person starting a company. And hopefully things will continue to go well for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've turned it around. I mean, it sounds a little bit like, Dave Morin was the founder of Path, and Path was an incredible, social networking app, I guess, if you want to call it that, beautiful design. And it was, people that were, I guess, sick of Facebook where, you just had so many friends, you didn't know anybody anymore. And Path was like a smaller network. Has Dave been able to give you any advice on what they did right and what they did wrong at Path to help you?
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. We've talked several times. I love that he's also like a product-oriented guy, so we have like some great conversations. They're also like investors in a couple of other companies in a similar space. So I've talked to Dave a lot about, various product features, but he's also been like, a really good mentor and guide. It's always inspirational to be able to talk to people who've managed to do that and managed to have that level of success. Because it's a really hard world out there. And when you see somebody who's managed to overcome all those obstacles and come out on the other side, who's willing to lend a hand and guide someone like me who's doing this for the first time, it really makes a difference.
Right. No, I totally agree. I'm sure I forget how long he ran Path for. I think they eventually sold the company, right?
Yeah, they did. And it was successful. Like, it was really cool to watch him do that. Like, coming from Facebook, starting his own thing, having that level of success, it's a great story.
Now, do you, do those two VC firms ever have kind of get-togethers with all their, their investments?
Yeah. So Lair does it twice a year with everyone. They have like a really cool holiday party, which is next month, and then they have.
And they're based in New York, right?
Yeah, based in New York. Then they have a CEO summit in May. I think it's May, where everyone goes to Citi Field for Mets game. And for the majority of the day, they bring in various industry leaders to do, I don't know, like what to even call it, but everyone has like different like topics that they're covering. There are different speakers. There are different like focus groups you can go and be a part of. So that's really cool because you're in a room with like all these different founders who all have like amazing stories, who, I don't know, all also have the same enthusiasm for like building their companies, which is really inspiring. I guess I love going to that because all these people always have like really interesting motivational things about, what they've done, like obstacles they've overcome. And when you see that they're able to do it, it gives you hope that you'll be able to do it as well.
Right. Do you think you'll have to raise money again for Friendsy?
Yeah, I think we will, especially now that we're ramping up. As far as scaling goes, I'm actually about to start like a fundraising process right now. So funny you should ask. I finished like my deck and our fundraising document last night. But yeah, we will have to raise more money, and a lot of that money will be to just scale out the replicable model that we now have to more schools in the Northeast, and then try to territorially take over various parts of the country.
How many college students across the country?
Like in total, there are 20 million.
Wow. So so currently enrolled, there are 20 million students.
Yeah, 20 million students. In the world, it's a little over 100 million. But yeah, that's undergrads, 20 million undergrads in the U.S.
And then so from that, it's pretty much, you can assume that there's 4 to 5 million new students coming into college every year, and then 4 to 5 million leaving.
Right. So inflow generally, I think inflow might be a little bit bigger than outflow. I'm not sure, but it's about equal.
Interesting. Okay. And then you have, so you're talking 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, community colleges. I mean, I would certainly think your 4-year colleges are really where you guys are focused on, though, right?
Absolutely, because most of those 4-year colleges are like a lot of people at those colleges stay on campus, which is important. That's not to say that commuters can't use Friendsy. Like it could have really good value for them specifically because they're not on campus. So it could be an easier way to meet new people. But the frenzy really happens when you have people in one area all talking about this app, all clicking each other's buttons, getting push notifications, and like snowballing that way. So our focus is definitely on 4-year colleges.
No, I see the value. I mean, I started off first three semesters of my college career was at a big school, University of New Hampshire, 20,000 people. I lived in a big dorm. I went to class every day and I was in a fraternity. But if I didn't run into someone in those three places, I most likely would never get to know them. So there could be thousands of other people across the campus that I could or should be friends with because we have similar interests. We come, maybe we both came from Massachusetts, whatever the case might be, but I would never get a chance to know them because there was no way to really connect with them. So
yeah, I mean, you've articulated our problem exceptionally well. Like that's exactly it. You're surrounded by all these people at college, and you're only close to a subset of them, like because like you do certain things, and those people also do those same things. But you'll never know like what connections you could have missed. Like one of my best friends, like now, like she was, she happened to be placed in the dorm next to me, and like I probably never would have met her otherwise. But it just so happened we were on the same floor, and a lot of strange random connections like that have led to some really long-lasting friendships.
now, would you say there's Facebook fatigue out there?
Absolutely. I don't use Facebook anymore at all, especially on days like yesterday where so much of what you see on Facebook is people just like fighting and arguing and like, I don't know, sharing their negative views on whatever. But I don't use Facebook at all.
Other than other than the Frenzy,
sorry,
what do you use the most? Was it Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram?
Snapchat. Absolutely Snapchat. Same with, I feel like it's different based on the age group, but I was giving a talk to some high school kids, like 6 months ago, and I asked them this question because I was really curious what's happening with that age group. On the Facebook note, like both of my parents are using Facebook, my grandparents are using Facebook. I think like those generations of people are using it more and more, and like that might be one of the reasons why it's driving me off. But
I think I've heard that I think the 50 plus crowd is the fastest growing, segment on Facebook. It is. It's the moms. It's the moms, the dads that are getting on for the first time. And they're connecting with their 50, 60-year-old friends, and then their friends want to connect with you. And then all of a sudden it's like the stuff that you're posting about in your life, related to college or your first job or, the date that went wrong is completely irrelevant to any of those people. And it's like, there's such a disconnect now.
Yeah, absolutely. We were at this, like, my mom's a dance teacher, like a classical Indian dance teacher. So we were at this performance in Princeton just a few weeks ago, and she met, like, this other mom who, like, is also really interested in Indian classical dance. And my sister and I were just standing there, like, as my mom was, like, chatting with this lady. And, she was like, hi, like, I'm whoever, hi, I'm whoever. They like wanted to keep in touch, so she goes, "Oh, I'll find you on Facebook." And my mom's eyes light up, and she's like, "Oh, great!" And like, I burst out laughing, and they looked at me, and I was like, "This is so funny." Like they didn't even like exchange phone numbers. It was like, "Oh, we'll find you on Facebook."
It's the new way to connect.
To answer your first question, when I was talking to those high schoolers, nobody raised their hand to say they were using Facebook. The three apps that were biggest were Instagram, Snapchat, and Kick. Well, now Facebook owns Instagram, but Instagram, Snapchat, and Kick were, what people were using. And for me, it's mainly Snapchat, just because it's a messaging app, and I like the fact that I can post cute snaps of my dogs, post like, I don't know, random things from my day, and it doesn't have to like stay there. If anyone who wants to look at them, they can look at them, but, give my dogs some fame.
Right. It's like on Snapchat, you can post 5 or 6 times a day, and you're not really overloading anybody. Versus if you post
Yeah.
5 or 6 times a day on Facebook, you're crowding up someone's feed, and then they unfollow you because they're just sick of seeing all this irrelevant stuff. But on Snapchat, it's
Yeah.
like that irrelevant stuff is what makes it, unique. And I think Snapchat's the most genuine app out there because I think you really get to see what someone's day or life actually looks like versus Snapchat or Instagram where maybe they're posting once or twice a day and it's just their favorite picture, photoshopped or whatever it might be.
Yeah, Snapchat's real, and I think it's here to stay. Like,
What okay, so now privacy, right? So that's a big one. On Facebook, a lot of people, let's target on the college kids since that's your audience. So the college
mhm.
kids are afraid to post stuff on Facebook because their parents might see it, the grandparents, their employer, their future employer, their professor. Do you guys take away all those issues?
Like on Friendsy.
Yeah, on Friendsy.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it is taken away automatically because only college kids can use the service, right?
Right.
So like your employers, your parents, like no one else can really see what you do. And besides that, all of your interactions are completely like private to yourself. So we've tried like other global features within Friendsy where you can interact in groups and if you want I can talk more about why those don't work. But essentially on Friendsy, all you can really see like is someone's profile, which is their curated image of themselves. It consists of up to 6 profile pictures, their major, any Greek life affiliations, like if they're on any sports teams. We have a list of like tags that you can choose from to describe yourself. Besides that, you can fill out an about me. And lastly, we allow you to anonymously compliment other people. So we're really big about spreading happiness and positivity, unlike a lot of these other apps and networks where there's a lot of negativity. And basically, I can go to your profile and say, "Oh, Jonah, like you have such beautiful eyes," and that gets posted on your profile. Anyone can see it. Anyone can give it a heart, which is like an upvote. But that's sort of you could think of it almost as like an endorsement, but it's a way to say something nice anonymously to someone else and make their day. So that's all you can see on someone's Friendsy profile, and then all of their other interactions are limited to their matches, right? So the only other content is messages they send to people, but those are all private to the user who's sending them.
Okay, I gotcha. Interesting. So I mean, it is you guys aren't super future. You're not feature heavy, right?
We have been, and that's like, that's a major mistake, I would say. Like, if I could go back and change something, you know, like constantly trying to build new features instead of doubling down on ones that worked well, has been like a big thing I would change. And it's a big thing that we have changed, but my mentality was always, how do we build the next new feature to, create more content to like increase engagement? And what I didn't realize is that our initial success meant that we did something right. It didn't mean that, we needed something else to achieve what we already had. So after, I would say, a couple of crazy features that we built that, were product heavy, I realized that what we really needed to do is make it easier for people to find matches on Friendsy. Like going back to why they use Friendsy, why they signed up for Friendsy, the emotional reasons that they came back to use Friendsy. It comes down to like the primal need for companionship, right? Whether it's love, lust, something else, like you want to meet new people, you want to be with other people, like you don't want to be alone, right? And that's really what drives Friendsy usage. On top of the fact that you want to find out who likes you, right? There are all these people on this college campus. Now there's an easy way to find out if any of them like you. That was what was driving most of our activity. And instead of doubling down on that and trying to optimize for making matches, we tried to build other features, like other features in parallel. And I've cut away most of those, and I've kept, all the core features that help you make matches are there, but they're all optimized and, they're a lot more frictionless now. It's easier to do. It's much more user-friendly. And we're finding that has been what's improved our retention. That has been what gets people talking about the app, not building new features.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes it takes a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, normally I ask, kind of wrap it up with a few questions. I usually ask, what was kind of the biggest mistake or regret that you have since starting the company? And it sounds like that was probably it, was kind of just building too many features into the app and having it take so long to kind of figure out, what the users, were actually looking for?
Yeah, I mean, totally. One of the things that we built was like an anonymous, like campus-wide chat rooms feature last year, where you could like anonymously chat with a bunch of other people, like at your school or even globally amongst other college students, and discuss hot button issues. So, for example, we would have had a chat room yesterday for the election results, where you
Okay.
could anonymously go in and like say whatever you want, and all they would see is what school you were from.
A lot of venting on that one.
Sorry?
A lot of people would have been venting inside that chat room.
Yeah, a lot of them would have been venting. So that feature, like, it was the first feature that really like blew up on Friendsy in terms of growth. So we launched our first chat room last summer, and in the first 2 weeks of our chat room, like we had, several people had opened that room like over 1,000 times in 2 weeks. We had one girl open it 10,000 times in 2 weeks, and we like did the math as to how frequently that meant she was opening it, and it was just ridiculous. So that like made us think that that was the future of Friendsy, kind of. I feel like I should have had stronger conviction in like why I built this to begin with, instead of going and trying to build a new feature to engage them. But it did a couple of things. First of all, it falls into that whole anonymous category, and there are a whole number of reasons why these anonymous apps like Secret and Yik Yak have Secret failed. The Yik Yak is on the brink of like not doing too well, but there are a variety of reasons why these apps aren't sustainable in the long run. And one of those is just that, number one, no one misses you when you're gone. Number two, like bullying, right? Bullying is huge. And there ended up being like a decent amount of bullying like on the Friendsy chat rooms platform itself. And one night I had enough and I built a kill switch into it. I wasn't going to have people getting bullied on my app. So I turned it off, and I was just like, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. But the feature had been promising. So what I actually did is I spent the next 10 days, me and like my iOS developer, we built an entire new app from scratch called Flock. And it was a chat rooms app targeted at anyone, like not just college students. And, the marketing team, like my partner at the time and like a couple of other guys spent like a month and a half trying to figure out how to market this. And it was like complete disaster. Like the app was far technically superior than the feature in Friendsy, right? Because we corrected for all of those mistakes and we built it correctly. But we fundamentally misunderstood the emotional reason people were like using Friendsy and like why they wouldn't just come to Flock, right? Why they wouldn't just like download an app because it existed. And that made me realize we had done something seriously right with Friendsy, and seriously wrong by trying to segment into another feature. Because we also segmented our user base and things got bad. So, not building Flock, not wasting like a month and a half of my life doing that. But it taught me an incredibly valuable lesson. And at the end of all that, I was on Google, like, after giving everyone 3 weeks off because morale was really low and things weren't going well. I was just like, go clear your heads, have a nice winter break, come back ready to like kick some ass. In January, I was sitting there by myself in the office on Google. I typed in college dating app, and Friendsy was in the top, like it was in 4 out of the top 7 hits. And I was like, dude, what were you doing? Like, why didn't you realize that? Why didn't you understand that? Why didn't you embrace that? And that just changed everything. Like that changed, my understanding of what we had managed to create. That changed every project plan I currently had in motion. We really, really worked on doubling down on, making matches on Friendsy, and that has led to our success right now. Understanding why people are on this app and catering to that instead of trying to build new features in tandem just because we think they're cool. That has been like the number one lesson I've learned from that experience. And I mean, I say that I wish I hadn't spent a month and a half of my life building that, but I feel like it taught me really valuable lessons in hindsight, and it made me, understand and almost go back to the roots of why I built Friendsy to begin with. So I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. I honestly wish there was an app like this for people, in their 30s. I would pay money for an app that could match me to other guys or girls in my local area that loved sports, loved business, loved animals, like those 3 things that I'm the most passionate about. I would love to go just grab coffee with a bunch of people right now that share the same interest, or would just want to spend the next 2 hours talking about startups and business and technology. Like there's just no one in my circle of friends that is like that. You know, most of them are people I grew up with in high school or went to college with or used to work with, whatever. So I totally get it. Okay, so to kind of wrap things up, just a couple fast fire questions I like to throw out there. If you could be mentored by anyone out there, who would it be?
Anyone in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think what Evan Spiegel and like Vaidhy Murti have managed to do with Snapchat is really impressive. I've never really reached out to them, but I really, really admire what they did with that company. Because, you know, people saw Snapchat in the beginning for just like, you know, a sexting app or like an app to like share pictures that like would disappear, right? But their vision and like, you know, the overarching like product goal is amazing. Like they're a camera app. They're not just like a random app that you share photos with. And you can see that. Like yesterday we voted and my mom wanted to take a picture of the three of us. So she pulls out her phone and some guy offers to take the picture and she gives him the camera and it's opened up to Snapchat, right? And I don't think he knows how to use it, but the fact that my mom opened Snapchat and not the camera app to take that picture says a lot. So I think what they've done has been really, really tremendous. And I mean, I look up to them. Haven't reached out yet, but you know, maybe one day I'll be fortunate enough to meet them and hear more about their journey.
That's awesome. Yeah, they really are crushing it. I don't think anyone really expected Snapchat to take off the way it has. I mean, I think they've passed Twitter in terms of, you know, daily active users or engagement, you know, probably by a long shot. Like I think there's, you know, those 100 million people that are using Snapchat are using it multiple times a day versus even if some of them are on Twitter, they might, you know, just be using it a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And then what is your favorite book or TV show?
Wow. That is a great question.
I don't read books. I don't read books. So if you don't have a favorite book, don't feel bad because I don't either.
No, I do. I have a lot. Open by Andre Agassi is my favorite book ever.
Oh, okay.
And this is like an amazing, you know, heartbreaking, heartwarming story of a guy who had to overcome so much and who managed to, like, I don't know, become a star who's righted a lot of the wrongs that were done to him and who is now giving back in amazing ways to the community. Like, he's my favorite tennis player of all time. And if Andre Agassi, if he would agree to, like, meet with me or, like, you know, even talk to me, I would go anywhere or do anything for that. Also, I haven't reached out to him, but he's amazing, and that book is really powerful. Any tennis fans or anyone who just wants to read a story of a guy who literally overcame more than you can imagine to get where he was, would highly recommend that book.
When I was a kid, I had an Andre Agassi poster in my room.
Dude, I knew we were going to hit it off. Like,
it was like Andre Agassi,
the man.
Michael Jordan. I'm trying to think who else was up there. Like Frank Thomas, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to play a lot of tennis when I was in high school.
Cool.
Haven't played in years. And then what about your favorite TV show or movie, whatever?
Favorite TV show or movie? We're watching this really good TV show right now. I probably wouldn't call it my favorite TV show. It's called The Night Of. It's about this like Pakistani guy and family in Queens, and he's accused of this crime, and it just shows a couple things. I actually haven't watched the last episode yet. My mom and sister and I are trying to find time to watch it together, but it really shows this like innocent kid's transformation once he goes to jail. My favorite TV show though is actually Breaking Bad. So have you seen that? Yeah, I loved Breaking Bad, and like my favorite part about it was how it blurred the lines between right and wrong. Like I found myself rooting for different characters who, like, you know, if you just step back and objectively look at what they're doing and why you're rooting for them, sometimes it's so wrong, but you're still rooting for them.
But
sometimes it's right and you're rooting against them.
I did the same thing. It's like because they were drug dealers, so of course they're breaking the law and they're bad people, but they were entrepreneurial. Like they wanted to build an empire and make money, just like we do.
Yeah, right. And like there's a lot to be respected, and it also showed like how, you know, when people do things, like sometimes their intention is different from the impact it has. Like sometimes they have to do things for certain reasons, and sometimes people are so quick to judge other people, but you don't really know like the struggle they're going through or like why they're really doing what they're doing. Like if you look at Walter, he started raising that money because he started that whole thing because he needed to raise money, right? He needed
to help his family. So when he died,
family.
He wouldn't be
right. Exactly. And you see what happens. You see the transformation, and that was unreal.
And then money becomes an addiction, and you just never have enough of it. Even when you have an entire storage unit full of a pile of money, it's still not enough. You still want more. And then what is one major personal goal that you have that you'd like to accomplish over the next 12 months?
I want to start a free summer camp of sorts, teaching kids how to code and build things. That has always been a dream of mine, and I actually want to start it next summer. If I can, I'd really love to. I've done this at a small scale so far. So there are certain kids who have expressed enthusiasm in learning how to make apps, but not really full apps. It starts a lot earlier than that, right? They have to learn they have to be able to do things where there's an immediate payoff, right? Like when you're that age, most people don't have the patience for delayed gratification. So you have to be able to do a little bit and have an immediate payoff. I've worked with a couple of kids on some projects that are really exciting to them, and I just love it when I meet kids who are as enthusiastic about building things as I am now. And I guess as I was as a kid, but the world is different now. It's never been easier to build something or start an app or make a website or really do anything that you're passionate about or care about using the tools available on the internet, because there's such a wealth of resources now that weren't there, 5-10 years ago. So that's definitely a personal goal of mine. And if any of you are interested in this, I'd probably do it in the New Jersey area.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
First name at friendsyApp.com. But I'd love to start something like that.
15, 20 years ago, the idea of a 20-year-old building a billion-dollar company was just laughable. Now you look at, all the billion-dollar companies that have been created in the last 5-10 years, and a lot of them are from 20-year-olds, Facebook, Snapchat, Tinder, the list goes on and on. So the earlier you can get to those kids, the better. What do you think is the kind of the earliest age where, someone might have the intellect or learning capacity to actually start coding in a meaningful way?
I would say 6 years old.
That young, for real?
That young, for real. 6 or 7. It depends on what you mean by meaningful, right? This is at that age, I literally mean if you want to build a web page with a certain background color that says your name on it, that's a great start.
Right.
It really depends on what you mean by meaningful. Actually build an app, I think, we've seen some really young kids make these things. There was this kid, I forget his name. He built I think it was called Stumly, a summarizer app, and he was just a young teenager, and
they got bought by
sold that
Twitter,
for
right?
$30 million, right?
Yeah.
So there are kids like that who've been doing it their whole lives. As far as learning to code goes, though, I honestly believe anyone can do it. Anyone can at least understand it in a meaningful way. There are a lot of really good tools out there. Code Academy, Khan Academy. But I learned to code by I learned how to do actual app development from a book I guess 7 or 8 years ago, and now all that stuff's available on the internet. But I think starting from a young age, if you're interested, that's a big thing as well. If you are interested in what you're doing, you're going to work so much harder for it. If you're doing it because your parents want you to learn how to start a company, that's not going to be nearly as impactful or meaningful. Friendsy started off as a project I wanted to build to solve a problem. And we became an official company when I had our iOS. This was a year and a half later when I wanted to launch our iOS app, and Apple asked me what my dunce number was, and I had no idea what that meant. So I went on Google, and I was like, what's a dunce number? And it's you need to be incorporated, and you get this special number that identifies you as a corporation, and Apple wouldn't let me submit my app from Friendsy unless I had that. So we incorporated. It was just a natural thing. What I found in my various hobbies and pursuits is when I really care about something and I'm really into it, and it's the things I'm always thinking about, it ends up going better than if it's something that I'm doing because someone else told me to do it.
Well, I know the founders. I know Adam and Matt Torin that are actually the founders of kidpreneurs.org, and I think they wrote a book called Kidpreneurs, how to start a company at a young age. So I'd be happy to connect you with them. You guys could probably have a good chat about stuff like this.
Yeah, sure. I'd love that. Sounds
Okay.
awesome.
Well, cool. Let's wrap it up there. Really appreciate your time today. Excited to hear what Friendsy's doing and then, what your plans are going forward. So, from all of us at Startup Sense, we wish you a lot of luck and, feel free to come back anytime and give us some updates.
Thank you so much, Jonah. I really appreciated this. It was great chatting with you. And if you're a college student listening to this, check out Friendsy. We're available on iOS and Android. Thank you.
Got it, man. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.